just full of juices in there too. Look at all them juices. Can I get in there? Yeah. Enzyme-rich juices. You wouldn't fall in that tank of juices. Get digested to death, but you'd feed the plants, which is pretty much how I want to go. Okay, so I'm at the UW Conservatory Greenhouse, one of my favorite places, and I got a behind-the-scenes tour with Nat Geo. These are all Nat Geo photographers, and we're all having a party this weekend, a big get-together for some future projects. But look at this amazing Nepenthes. So it's a pitcher plant, and if you see, these pitcher plants have a modified end to a leaf. So the leaf goes there, and then it comes down, and then has this incredible, outrageous structure. One per leaf. This one was donated for the cause of demonstration purposes, and checking it out, under the guidance of the botanist over there. But look at the structure of it. That is a leaf. So up on the top, this is a waxy rim, and it makes it really slippery. So as the insects are crawling around on there, they wind up slipping into there. Inside there are hairs that are like spikes that point downward. So whatever tries to go up can't. It just slips off of the downward pointing spines, and then it gets in the way, and they can't get there until they fall into this acid-like goo that's on the bottom. But it's actually a goo full of enzymes that breaks down exoskeleton. Well, what remains is the exoskeletons, but all the body juices and stuff wind up getting turned into nutrients for the plant, because these plants typically live as epiphytes in very wet areas where there's not a lot of nutrients, so they're getting their nutrients from things that are flying around and insects and things. So it's very, very cool, and it's totally awesome. And then look at this clever little umbrella on the top. So the enzymes wind up staying good and concentrated. Lots more to talk about this plant, but I got to hang out and keep up with all these amazing explorers. So there's a couple different, well, there's quite a few different species of Nepenthes. This one looks like it's Nepenthes alata from the Philippines. Smaller cups, but same mechanisms primarily. Very cool. Oh God, I love that. Oh, so good here. So good. These are all different kinds of bromeliads. The only edible bromeliad is in the pineapple family. And then let's see, what does Katie have to say? Let me see. There you go, sweet. This is the warm tropics room. Sorry, it's so cool here. Look at those great orchids, little orchids. But like these ones, it's a kind of a Gesneria, not this one, but this one, Gesneria. Those are typically pollinated by, in the color indicates when it's orange like that is usually hummingbird flavored, hummingbird pollinated. These large gingers, mostly all of these are hummingbird pollinated, which is really cool. Yeah, and then this big giant Aristolochia, or sometimes they call them Dutchman's pipe, but this is a really big one. There's one kind of in bloom. Up, can I get up? Oh, it's right there. So I've seen these in Ecuador, and these are the indigenous. One of the indigenous tribes that I work with believe that this is to help cure malaria. But every single one of these plants has an amazing story. There's another Gesneria, very cool. Just before I leave, look at this. Look at the rhizostructure of this amazing fern. Is that so good? It is so good. I want that in my kitchen. This is just a little section of the orchids, but I was really surprised. Look at these orchids come in all different sizes and flavors. Look at this. Isn't that a beautiful one? It's almost like a Paphiopedilum, maybe, or a Cymbidium. No, it's a Phragmipedium. Anyhow, these are all different orchids, but I was so surprised to see a Dracula orchid. So the Dracula orchids are, why they're called Dracula, I'm not sure, but if it has anything to do with just the look of that hanging blossom that comes in almost from the roots, maybe that's Dracula-esque. But yeah, I don't lie to you. There it is, right there. But really beautiful epiphyte. I wouldn't be surprised if it was pollinated by things like bats, because they would have to go and fly up there and then get tangled up in that little floral sexual organ there, and then in the process get pollen on them, or they exchange pollen. I'll learn more about this for you guys, but anyhow, to see a Dracula orchid in bloom is really special. About this plant, Tacca, the genus Tacca, and it only grows in Sumatra, which I was just there 2 months ago, but it is pollinated by bats, and you can't smell anything right now, but more than likely at night this whole room just becomes the smell of whatever these bats tend to like. And then it has these filaments coming down, more than likely to have something to do with the bats flying around it, maybe getting tangled in it, or having something to latch onto while they stick their little faces in there and sap up the nectar. So it just doesn't like water, so water dances off of it. But that's an adaptation that this plant has, because when it's way up high and it rains a bunch, these leaves that are way up, way up in the middle of nowhere, if big rains, they would topple these leaves. So if it wants to expel all of that rain as soon as possible, so it doesn't get weighed down by the rain. Yeah, like I said, science is trying to look at it so they can incorporate that sort of technology, this plant technology, this adaptation, evolutionary amazingness, and incorporate that into amazing. Imagine if you had paint, car paint, house paint, and just imagine from there. Okay, bye. This one, right? Oh my gosh. That is so cool, right? Oh, it's just an incredible sculpture. That big bell-shaped flower, that's Campanulaceae. We have harebells. That's a weed, that's a beautiful weed that's in our gardens a lot over here in Washington State. But this is from the Mauritian Islands, and surprisingly, this flower is built so a particular gecko can go in there, a kind of a day gecko goes in there and then saps up the nectar. So this plant right here is dependent on a specific kind of gecko that goes and pollinates this. And the flowers are purpose-built to invite geckos. And then they probably go in there. Well, look at those bright orange. That is so awesome. Oh my God, those big, bright nectaries. So you can see them glistening right there. That is just full. Isn't that amazing? Whoa. Is that so rad? That is so cool. So that is just full of nectar. You can go in there if you were a gecko and you shoved your face in there.
It's a gecko hammock. Oh my gosh.
Look at that red stuff.
Wow. Face paint.
Yeah, this is, the hangover is horrific though. No, but that is that's very, very sweet. It's a sweet nectar right there. You can try, stick your finger in there and just try. I mean, you only live once. See what happens. It's free the first time. But if I was a gecko, you sap that up, and then while you have your face in there lapping up nectar, you get this part. You get either some pollen on your bean there, and then when you go to the next flower, you disperse that pollen from one flower, hopefully another plant to another flower, and then you wind up making seeds for this beautiful another little plant. But this kind of plant lives up in the trees, so it's an epiphyte. It doesn't live in the ground, so it's way up in the trees where the geckos are, and really kind of a fascinating plant. I mean, it's not like there's only a few plants that are fascinating. Every single one of these plants has its own story and how it lives. There's actually a really cool plant. I was looking at this one. Look at this one right in here. Check this one out. This one's really cool. And this is called a bladderwort right in there. And it's actually a carnivorous plant as well. So it has these little structures in there are actually hollow little traps. Those little things, those little like pods there. You see that? And those will eat like zooplankton. So zooplankton gets stuck in there, and then they wind up rotting, and then that's the nitrogen base for this plant to continue growing. Katie, tell us what you do, because talk about fascinating plants with fascinating people. How amazing!
This is for the plants.
But she's a National Geographic explorer, and we're learning all about like remote areas of the Himalayas in India, and oh my God, you only have one life to live. So much to do. Thank you, Katie. But isn't this so great? Look at the lotus.
Yeah, there's a nice purple one here. You know?
Oh yeah, that's a tropical water lily. These are very cool. So pretty. It's a great display of seeds. This one's really cool. So this one is found in the Sonoran Desert, and it is made for, so when a large artiodactyl, so it's something with hoofs like a deer, this is laying around, and the deer, and it goes in there, and then it clamps on to put your wrist out there, so it goes like that. So it just goes, and then it stays on there, and then you walk around the desert for like 10 miles, and then voila, there's another one of those double claw plants that's able to disperse its seeds and grow there.
So smart.
Super rad. Yeah, well, every single one of these. There's the one right there. Very cool. All of these are seeds except that one. I don't know what that one's about.
So you'll see some mountain goat with bangles on it.
Yeah,
Basically.
yeah, and then it'll travel around and this great invention.
Yeah.
But all of these have great inventions. This is
This one looks like
Bicha oriana. It's used to
Betel
flavor
nut?
to flavor. No, this one Bicha Bixa. It's used for coloring rice in Latin America. So if you ever have rice at the Mexican food store and the rice is like pink and red, that's from these seeds.
Is that also what they're using? No.
And they use face paint out of them too. Very cool.
It's heavy.
This is the largest known seed in the world. This one, it's only found in one place. Oh yeah, it says it right there. Largest seed in the world. The coco de mer, it's like only found in the Mauritian Islands. And the second largest seed in the whole wide world is the coconut. Vanilla beans, right there. Microscopic almost seeds. So it goes from like the biggest to the very smallest. That's those little green dots in your really high-end vanilla ice cream. Those are actual vanilla bean seeds. Can't just not talk about how beautiful this pony palm is, or the elephant foot tree, whatever you want to call it. What's amazing is that thing right there, that big, amazing, beautiful specimen of a plant. It's related to an asparagus. It's true. It's true. Look at this. Latin name, Biocarnia, from Mexico, but Asparagaceae right there. See? Asparagaceae. I don't lie. I don't come up with these facts either. They're just true facts. They're there. Super rad, huh? Oh my God. Okay. Now we get into the arid, dry land areas of the world plants. Okay, so all these different plants have mechanisms to be able to survive challenging times where there isn't a lot of moisture. So the typical succulent, where they store water, that's the typical thing. A lot of these things have really tough leaves and very waxy, so it's like having chapstick. You don't get chapped, you don't lose moisture through your lips. Same thing that works on these leaves, some of these like that. But again, it's very succulent, it's very water storagey. These are all the euphorbs. So these are all things that are related to crown of thorns. See that they have. That's an actual flower, actually. Those are not leaves. Crazy enough. And when plants are looking like this, when they do get watered, they'll spat out these leaves, and oftentimes these leaves, they don't last for very long, because like over here's a good example. So like this whole tree right there, when it gets dry during the dry season or whatever, all the leaves will totally fall off of it, and then it winds up looking like this plant, which, believe it or not, this plant is thriving. It just, you water it a little bit more, and then little leaves come on, and then when it dries off, they fall off. But oftentimes these plants can still photosynthesize by having like a little photosynthetic layer underneath that protective. Thank God, this is amazing. Welwitschia. Welwitschia, this stuff right here this is one of the oldest growing plants in the world, one of the most prehistoric plants. This plant was basically, it's not a flowering plant, because when it was evolving and adapting and growing, it had grown before insects had been around or been invented per se or whatever. There was no evolutionary relationship between plants and insects at that time. So during that time, before insects were around, flying insects that were pollinating, there were things like pine trees and mosses and lycopodiums and things like that that produce spores and no flowers and no seeds. This one is actually, believe it or not, this whole thing, this is more closely related to a pine tree than anything else. It's considered a conifer. And it only has 2 leaves, even though these look like leaves. It's like a split toenail. And this is a big giant leaf that's splitting. This is one giant leaf, and it just continually grows throughout its life. A plant like this, which is found only in one place, one distinct place in the world, which is the Skeleton Coast of Namibia. I will go there one day because I want to see these in the wild. They just live in these barren sand dunes, like horrifically hot, like might rain every few years. Okay, so this whole thing will grow. So thousands of years, you've got a plant that just has tangles and tangles of these of a long leaf that eventually dies. And this is the photosynthetic part, very hard, leathery thing. But this is Welwitschia plant. Very, very rad. To see one of these just in real life is amazing. Oh my God. No, it really is cool. You've got oh God, so you've got more euphorbs. These are so great. I've got one of these on my in my house. New World, only in the Americas, are our cactuses. So we've got really great cactuses. Don't get me going about cactuses. I mean, I could be here for a long freaking time. So rad.